Well, welcome to another Transition Tales. Now, I'm a very instinctive person, which I think on the whole I am glad about in terms of forming opinions and making decisions and so on. However, I've discovered that although my instincts are often good, they're not always so, and that can cause a problem. One of my worst instinctive reactions was when I was interviewing with my boss for a vacancy. I'd drawn up the shortlist, so I had a fair idea of who was going to be in front of us. One of the candidates came in, and within a couple of minutes I knew instinctively that they were not the right fit for the team. And I just clearly switched off. And I can remember my boss giving me a dressing down afterwards about the need to be more professional rather than giving in to my personal feelings. Now, that candidate wasn't the right person. We agreed on that. My instincts were right, but my reactions and my treatment of that person were not. And let's be honest, there are certain people we naturally and instinctively warm to, and others, well, let's just leave it at that, shall we? What happens is that we often tend to surround ourselves with people we like and get on with, who often have similar views and interests to us. And our use of social media can mean that we are interacting again with those who are similar to us, and consequently having our own thoughts and opinions echoed and amplified back to us. When we're forced at times to move outside of the familiarity of what we know and like, it's then that God has opportunities to cause us to rub up against different people and situations, and at times our reactions can be quite revealing. Now, the story of Rahab in the book of Joshua is the story of a lady who was a prostitute and who saves the lives of the spies that Joshua had sent into Jericho. But almost instinctively, we can easily think, why her? Why should she be the hero in the story? I remember a church situation where a project was just about to hit some really big problems, and I was bracing myself for the flack that I was fairly sure would be coming my way. Then someone who wasn't a Christian, but who had a lovely big heart, seemed to appear out of nowhere and took control of the situation and literally saved my bacon. Without going into details, we'd probably not have naturally been drawn together. But this individual was my Rahab, and like her, they were part of God's redemptive plan as far as my story goes. And this person was a real friend when I needed someone to come to my rescue. You see, in a crisis, you can't choose who is offering you the hand to rescue you. Sort of, no thank you. No, you just grab it. And again, that is one of the reasons why God allows stuff to happen in our lives that we would not necessarily choose. It can expose our prejudices and narrow thinking. But it also demonstrates the largesse of God's heart and the reality that he is far more inclusive and embracing than we often are. Let's be honest. Rahab's probably not at the top of our list in terms of who we want God to include or use to help us and be a hero in our story. But whenever we react like that or sit in judgment, it invariably reveals our prejudices, our narrow-mindedness, and how far we are from fully knowing God's love for fallen humanity. You know, ultimately, this is not about our view of Rahab. It's about our view of God, the one who, in our New Testament understanding of him, demonstrates or proves his love towards us in that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. And the Message version puts it really well. But God put his love on the line for us by offering his Son in sacrificial death while we were of no use whatever to him. You see, it's God's love that makes sense of his choices. And it's certainly not about who I think is deserving of his love, because none of us are. Without the Rahabs in my life, my view of God is probably quite narrow and possibly even bigoted. It's the Rahabs who've proved to me that no one is beyond God's love. And when they've turned out to be the hero in the mini-dramas that are sometimes my life, it's not to be seen as a comment on perhaps others who could or should have helped. It's a testimony to the wonderful and amazing love of God who rescues and redeems in the way he chooses. So when my reaction is perhaps, why him, or surely not them, Lord, or anyone but her, I may in fact be distancing myself from the person who could literally be a godsend to me. But worse still, I'm revealing the little I really know of the God who loves me and who loves all the Rahabs in this world.